Hi, I'm Chris McBrien, a Gen Xer, and the pop culture from my generation is awesome.
And I'm Yancy Eaton, a millennial, and the pop culture from my generation is dope.
Episode 20, the funniest movies ever. Yes, it's Chris McBrien here along with Yancy Eaton. This is Pop Goes Your World. You can always reach us on Twitter at Yancy Eaton or at C McBrien. And if you want to reach out to us on email, it's Chris or Yancy at popgoesyourworld.com. Yancy, what is going on in the world of pop for you this week?
Once again, same thing as last week. Not a whole lot just because of
busy
the holiday
guy.
schedule
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Very busy guy. I'm off this weekend and I'm pretty excited. I have like a niece's like singing recital thing I have to go to tomorrow. I say have to. I get to go to. I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm currently sitting out here, Chris. We were talking off air just before we started recording. I'm sitting out here in like a new kind of like a detached garage that my wife and I had paid to be built out here. And, I just started recording out here, so it kind of like gets me out of the house. My wife doesn't have to be, super quiet while I record. And I keep hearing like these like, scratching animal sounds outside. And I don't know if I should be like, alarmed or what, because like I keep hearing it and I'm like, I don't know, a little cautious because I'm not sure exactly what it is I'm hearing. If whatever this animal is trapped inside this shed with me. So if you guys hear me like sounding a little distracted, that's probably what it is. I'm just looking out for my own like self-preservation here. So
man, lucky we're not doing our horror movie episode. You'd be freaking out big time.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one more thing too before we jump into the show. We got a really cool email from Scott Stopolsky. He's obviously a listener, and I think he initially emailed you first, and you tagged me in it. But just a really cool, feedback that we got from a couple shows ago that we did. Remember when we did our cult films, number one cult movies?
Yes.
Yep, and he basically sent us a quick email and said, did you guys realize that both of your number one cult movies feature Meatloaf in them? In Fight Club, his name was Robert Paulson. That is so random that like we didn't make that connection, but he's absolutely right. How weird was that?
Yeah, because my number one cult movie was the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he was, of course, Eddie in that. Mm-hmm. And, so that's really, really cool, man. Yeah, that is some good stuff. It was a really good catch on his part, that's for sure. And it was, that's very interesting. Keep the emails coming by all means and get into the show here. A couple things for me this week. On the weekend for my birthday, my wife took me out to a concert. We went to see Rick Emmett. So Rick Emmett was formerly of the rock band Triumph, the Canadian progressive rock band, one of my favorite bands of all time. And so we went to the concert. It was him with his new band. They're called Resolution 9. But he was playing like a lot of his old stuff, a lot of the old Triumph songs. Man, was it fantastic. We had great seats. I posted up a link to a video from the show. It was out. He's 63 years old, and he's on stage playing guitar like it's just the most effortless thing ever, and just phenomenal. And the guitar player he had playing with him, his name was, I believe it was Dave Dobson, and he was really, really good too. But even they were doing a Triumph's one of Triumph's most popular songs was called "Somebody's Out There," and when they did that song, when the other guitar player was playing the high part for it, he sounded good, but then when Rick Emmett played it, it just was so much better. He just plays with, I don't know, an effortless soul to, I can't even explain it. It was phenomenal. So that's one thing that we did. And then the other thing is looking forward to, I guess, about 2 weeks from now, I went ahead online and I've pre-bought my tickets for Rogue One. And the cool thing is that there's a new theater here in town. So I live in Barrie, Ontario. It's a city of about 160,000 people north of Toronto. And so I bought tickets. There's a new theater in the North End. And there's special seating. I don't know if you have this at your local theater there, Yancy. There's special seating in the middle. And these are seats that actually move and they shake along with the action in the film. And so there's a few extra bucks to sit there, but I'm going with a buddy of mine, the same guy that I went to, we went down to Fan Expo together. So me and him, and we're all taking our kids, and we're all Star Wars fans. So that's another thing we got going on. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. So it should be good. Anyway, like I said, we've got a great topic tonight, and one of my favorite things ever is comedy movies, and we're going to get into some of our favorite ones, at least the funniest movies of all time. Yancy, are you ready to go?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
My parents watched this with me, and they hated it, like a lot of movies that I've already mentioned on this show.
Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Man, Eddie Murphy did some of the best impressions I've ever heard.
Shabadoo and Boogaloo Shrimp.
Chris.
I've rewatched it as an adult. I still like it.
This brassiere is killing me and this garter belt is riding up my ass.
Oh, my.
What could possibly go wrong?
My parents pieced out like halfway through it.
I'm good, thanks.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, so like I say, we're going to be cutting down our top 5 funniest movies ever on tonight's show. So it's going to be great. Yancy, why don't you kick us off? We'll start at number 5, work our way to 1. Your number 5 funniest movie ever. Go.
Okay, so I don't know what your research process looks like for the show. I think you have a lot more of this kind of stuff like built into your head already. But like for me, a lot of times I find it like really helpful to kind of go online and look over some stuff and read a few things and see if I'm missing something, that doesn't immediately come to mind. So I was, scrolling through like some lists and stuff like that from like Rolling Stone and IMDb lists and stuff of like, the greatest comedies of all time, just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. And to be honest with you, like I was drawing a blank. Like I could think of a couple, but rounding out my top 5, I had to do a little bit of research. And man, I kept seeing the same names over and over, the same movies in all these different, all these different lists and critics lists and fan created lists. And there are a lot of really popular comedies that I have never seen. Like we've talked about this before. This is well documented that like I have this gigantic hole when it comes to pop culture, like namely with movies. Like I've never seen Airplane before, Chris. Like I need to see Airplane. I've never seen Blazing Saddles. Like I need to see these. I know, but so yes. I almost feel bad like talking about this because there are going to be just some really egregious omissions, and this is a really long preface to what I'm about to say. But so let me just jump into number 5 real quick.
And sorry, just to preface it, it's perfectly okay because the whole point of the show is that you're a millennial and I'm a Gen Xer, so your 5 funniest movies are going to be different from mine. There might be some overlap, though. I got to give you a little bit of a preface. 3 of my 5 movies have been released since 1999, surprisingly enough.
That really surprises me.
Might shock you. So you never know. We might have some overlap. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead. What's your 5?
Yeah. So number 5 for me, I was talking with my wife just before the show, running some stuff by her, seeing what, I always bounce ideas off my wife. You guys know this. I mention it every week. And we were talking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I've only seen it a handful of times, and I don't want to act like it's my favorite movie, but I wanted to avoid talking about Office Space or Dodgeball again because those movies already get like a ton of play as far as, my analysis goes. So I'm going to slot Monty Python and the Holy Grail in at number 5 simply because it's one of those few movies where obviously the acting, the dry British humor is fantastic. The dialogue is one of the most oddball, like unusual things I've ever seen. And I didn't realize this the first time I'd watched it, I think just because I was younger and I wasn't really paying attention to the movie. But going back and watching it a second time, I watched it a few weeks ago, I didn't realize that there were several characters in there played by like 3 or 4 actors.
Oh, yeah.
Like between like Eric Idle, John Cleese, and Graham Chapman, like that was basically like 15 characters in this, which I can really, really appreciate. I think that's awesome. I mean, obviously scenes like having a guy clamp like coconut shells or coconut husks together to be like the sound of a horse like coming up, or like the French guy in the castle, or fighting the Black Knight. I mean, there's just so many things about like that are just iconic scenes that even if you haven't seen the whole movie, like you've seen you've seen excerpts of this movie before. It's just like the driest of dry as a squirrel outside is like going crazy on my roof. Sorry. I'm gonna slot it at number 5. I'm not going to act like I'm like the biggest fan of the of the whole genre or of Monty Python in general, but it is just a really, really funny movie, super, super original, and just like the whole premise of the movie is something that it just has so much staying power. What year did the movie come out? Do you even know?
1975.
Of course you know.
Yeah.
Of course you know.
And congratulations, by the way, the millennial picks a film from 1975 for his list. I am very impressed.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw it in there just for staying power alone. And like I said, I love original movies, and this is definitely an original. So that's my number 5.
There you go. Like I say, I'm going to go with a couple of newer movies. I'm going to surprise you with some of these. Okay, my number 5 is from 1999, your favorite year of all time, and that's South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. I was a huge fan of South Park right from the beginning. And yeah, like it was rude, it was crude, but by season 3, it was really starting to shape up into some of the best social satire that we'd probably seen in a long, long time. And I tell you, when they came out with the movie, I think a lot of people just thought, oh, it's just going to be like those foul-mouthed kids in a full-length movie. But instead, what you got was this social satire about censorship, and it's wrapped up in a musical, and what a musical it was. Like, the songs were incredible. Blame Canada was nominated for an Oscar. I think it definitely, yeah, it was. They lost to Phil Collins. But I mean, it was nominated. I think it really sort of paved the way for Parker and Stone to move into Broadway. Which, by the way, Yancy, I don't know. Have you had a chance to see the Book of Mormon?
I have not.
It came to Toronto in 2014, and my wife and I went. It was fantastic. Like, the night we went to, I remember the understudy was playing the lead role, Elder Price, and obviously, what was his name? Josh Gad. He didn't come to Canada to play Elder Cunningham. I think the actor was Christopher John O'Neill. He was fantastic. The whole cast was. But anyway, that's an aside. Like, for the South Park movie, one of the things that I liked about it too, it was the way that it started out. So you've got this. Okay, so the TV show, South Park, is just known for being crass and vulgar, right? And then there's now a movie where they can basically say and do anything that they want. Anything that they can't do on TV, they can now do in this movie. So you go there and you're expecting to see like the crudest of the crude, and the movie opens up with a musical number about this quiet little mountain town. And you're watching it and you're thinking, okay, what's the hitch? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on with this? It's like everything's sweet, and then, when's it going to turn the corner? And then the kids go to see the Terrence and Phillip movie, and then they do the song Uncle and you're like, okay, here we go. And I tell you, Parker and Stone, I think those guys are comedy geniuses. 2 of their movies make my top 5 list, but it's Bigger, Longer, and Uncut that's going to kick it off for me. So that's my 5. On to your 4.
I was not expecting to hear South Park tonight. That is really unusual. And by the way, have you identified the link between the 2 movies that we've already listed?
What's the link between the movies?
Eric Idle obviously is in my
Oh, yes, and Eric Idle is also in the South Park movie because he's the doctor
he's
trying to implant
Dr.
the V-chip.
Vosknacker.
Yep, that's right, the V-chip guy. Oh, very cool.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, well, like I said, that kind of caught me off guard because I was not expecting to hear South Park, but that is a very, very interesting pick. Another one of those movies where I've only seen it once or twice, but like maybe I should go back and like make a night of it and watch it.
A lot of this I'm basing this on, like when I say funniest movies, are the ones that I genuinely laughed at the most. And when I was in the theater watching South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, I lost my mind. Like, I was just laughing. I was literally rolling in the aisles. I loved it. I loved every minute of that movie.
Word. All right, so my number 4, Chris, is Dumber and Dumber. It's
nice.
It's really hard with comedies because like I don't know how to characterize these type of jokes. I'm sure you know what the exact word is, but like there are jokes where like they don't have replay value. Once you hear the punchline, it's basically a dead joke. You know what I mean? Like you can only hear it so many times, and it just kind of like loses its pizzazz. And I don't really experience that with Dumb and Dumber at all. I've probably seen this movie 50 times. I can't tell you how many times I would go to like a house party or something like that, and it's just on in the background. Like it's like one of those like weird movies that's like it's like a wallflower movie where like if you can't figure out something to put on with like you and your group of friends, it's always just Dumb and Dumber in the background. I don't know if you ever experienced anything like that, but I did. Jim Carrey obviously is just iconic in this, and a lot of people don't realize this about like the big gap or the big cutout in his tooth. Mm-hmm. That's a real tooth. Yep. And they were trying to make him look super dorky, whatever, because like they kept saying whenever they were creating the movie that he looks too normal. Like, how can we get him more in character? And he literally took the cap out in his tooth and like, oh, this is perfect. Yep. This is so perfect. Like, we have to go with this. And it's just a stupid movie. And like, there's so many things I can quote from it. Like weird storyline, weird premise and stuff. Obviously, best scene I think has to be when the girls pull up in the bus, and they're looking for 2 guys to rub oil on them and all this stuff, and they're like, well, if you just go right down the road, and man, wouldn't it be great to be those guys someday? It's just like, it's so stupid, you know what I mean? It's so stupid. It never stops being funny. Nobody in my family really cares for the movie. I think I've identified this, like that whole genre of just so stupid. It's not. It's I mean, it's like blatantly stupid, basically. Like, that has never really resonated with anybody in my family. So, like, I don't have like a support group when it comes to movies like this, but I'll always love this movie. I'll always go back to it. And like I said, if it's ever on like, Showtime or something like that, or if it's ever on in the background, I'll always watch it. So that's my number 4.
You know what? I gotta step in, like, because that movie, I like that movie a lot too. The part that you talked about with the girls on the bus came at the very, very end of the movie, and I remember when I saw the film, and they go through the whole movie, and they're the stupidest guys ever, and then the end of the movie comes, and this bus pulls up with all these beautiful women, and then they're like, oh, do you guys know where we could find some guys that just want to ride around with us and oil us up? And they're like, oh yeah, there's a town right up there. There'll be lots of guys for you to get. And they're like, okay. And then they drive away, and then they chase after the bus. And they go to, and then as soon as they chase it down, and the bus stops, and they run up to it, and I thought, no, they're not going to let these guys win. They're totally blowing the whole premise of the movie. And Jim Carrey looks at him and goes, oh, so glad that we caught up to you. The town's that way. And then I was like, yes, it's just so gratifying. Like, you're like, oh, good. I thought you can't let these guys win. You can't, because they're such losers. That was a good one. I like.
And the look the woman gives them. Exactly. How she just like looks them down, like, what the hell?
What
like,
are you
never mind.
About? Exactly. Yep. Oh, that's great. Okay. Okay, my number 4 came out in 2006. I'm going to give you the subtitle of the movie and see if you can guess what it is. It's Cultural Learnings of America for Make-Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan.
Borat?
It is Borat, and the whole movie is hilarious. I loved it.
Very nice.
I basically laughed the entire time I was in the theater, but I tell you, the scene with Borat comes out of the bath with the towel around him, and he catches Azamat with the Baywatch book, and he's looking at the pictures of Pamela Anderson, and he's like pleasuring himself.
Oh my.
And then Borat gets mad at him, and they start to nude wrestle, and it turns into this massive naked fight. I was laughing so much. My wife turned at me. I went to the movie with my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but we went. And she turned at me one point, and she's like, oh my God, you're crying. And I was laughing, like, without a doubt, like the loudest, hardest I've ever laughed in a movie in my life. And the fact that Borat had that black censored box that was covering up his genitals, but Azamat didn't have one because he was so fat he didn't need it. You couldn't see anything anyway. I was losing my mind. And then the best thing about it is, you and I have talked before, we like those jokes that just keep going and going and going and going. And,
yes.
And the fight just kept going. And then you think it's over, and then they're in the hall, and then they're in the elevator, and then all of a sudden they're in this big conference full of people. And oh man, I tell you, that is the funniest scene ever in a movie. And the thing was, I remember back when it was coming, when it was coming out, I was a huge fan of the Ali G show, and mostly I liked it because of the Borat segments on the show. And I remember telling my wife and all my friends, I said, "Oh, there's this Borat movie and that they're going to be making," and nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. And I literally had to drag them to the theater to see it. And I remember it only opened in 837 theaters its first weekend, and it led the box office that weekend with $26.4 million take. So obviously they had this incredible take. Over $31,000 per screen. There were lineups to get in to see the movie. And of course, it opened up in wide release afterward because of that success. But I really don't think the distributors or the local movie theaters, I don't think they knew what to make of the movie when it first came out. And so a lot of them just passed on showing it. And then obviously it all changed, when it beat all the other movies its opening weekend. It turned out to be a huge hit. And it was one of the funniest movies ever made. That's my 4.
You know what's really weird about Borat, too, that a lot of people don't realize? How many, if you had to guess, put a number on it, how many actors do you think appear in that movie? Total.
Oh, not too many. Not too
5.
many. Yeah, very, very few, because a lot of
literally 5.
A lot of it's unscripted stuff that they did, right? The guys on the bus and everything. It's all unscripted. And that was the whole part of the old Ali G show, was always this unscripted stuff that Borat would do. And oh God, it was so funny. Oh man, I loved it.
All right, so that was your number.
That's 4. On to your 3.
All right, number 3. I'm going to go with Anchorman. The Legend of Ron Burgundy obviously came out in 2004. Borderline rated R movie, but somehow snuck in at PG-13, which, you could have gone either way on that. But Christina Applegate, actually very, very funny in this movie. I as funny as Will Ferrell is, I think she actually makes the movie, which is – I love it whenever, like – the supporting actor or actress kind of like steals the spotlight, and I think she does in this. Steve Carell is obviously very funny too, but it's just such a perfect film. When you talk about rewatchability, this is one of the most rewatchable films. And I will say this: I have another Will Ferrell movie to make my top 5 that will come up to pretty soon. But just talking about like like this personification of like every like newscaster you think of in like a big city, you know, like Mr. Hotshot, that he's like the like local hero. He has like this ego that's larger than life, and like I think he just like captures it. So like obviously like it's satire, but there is so much truth to it, because like I can think of a guy like that down here in Florida. Like I can think of like these local news guys that they just perfectly fit the bill. You know what I mean? And like you always hear like these stories, like I write articles and stuff like that online about how, you know, a lot of these people who are in this industry, you know, weathermen and broadcasters, and they're all like really crazy. They're all super, super belligerent. Like they're all inappropriate. Like you've seen like the YouTube like bloopers and stuff like that, where like they don't realize that they're on camera and stuff. Like this is like an industry like where people don't realize like this is how things really operate. You know, to an extent, maybe not as crazy as this is, but I mean, it's just a perfect film. And it's crazy because like there are two members on this. I can't remember the other guy's name, but he plays Packer on The Office. I don't know if you watched The Office. Have we talked about this before?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so The Office is one of my favorite shows of all time. So obviously with Steve and, like I said, the guy who plays Packer, I can't remember the actor's name, but it's just kind of weird where you see like multiple same actors from a different show or like a different movie and stuff like that, and they all kind of like go together. It's almost like they like recommended each other, or like they're like looking up for parts, kind of like how Rob Schneider does with Adam Sandler, how they're always in each other's movies, kind of thing. But anyways, that's, you know, it doesn't really make much sense, but just the idea of like, you know, Ron Burgundy, and you know, being in San Diego, he's the male-dominated broadcasting leader. You know, it's all about like this male type of thing. And whenever like a new woman comes in, like there's like this like, you know, this horribly sexist dynamic, and it's super, super funny. I'm trying to think of like specific like quotes to like throw out about this movie, but for some reason I'm blanking. I don't know if you have one that you can like throw out there and like bail me out, but maybe the scene where he he has an erection. God, I hope my mom doesn't listen to this. And he basically says it's like an optical illusion. I mean, it's one of the funniest movies ever. I'd probably watch this movie 50 times, Chris. So that's my number 3, Anchorman.
Yeah, number 3. Okay. I mentioned Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and I tell you what, if they made one of the funniest movies ever with South Park, they were just getting warmed up, because when they came out with Team America World Police in 2004, man, they outdid themselves. I think those guys are always at their best when they're in a medium without actors. Like, I think both Parker and Stone have said that in the past how much they hate actors, right? And they do almost all the voiceovers on the TV show themselves. And the same was true for this movie, except Darren Norris did Spotswood, though. Man, he was so good. And he was funny. And there was the celebrities, remember? Matt Damon and Alec Baldwin. Remember he did that Film Actors Guild speech? And and then that Broadway musical about everyone having AIDS. And then there was that scene where Gary was vomiting in the alley, and it just keeps going and going. Like we say how much we like those kind of scenes. But I think the funniest part of the movie, and probably one of the funniest scenes in the history of movies, was that sex scene between the two marionettes. And I tell you, when that in the movie theater, when I saw that, I literally was off my chair on the floor, losing my mind. I just laughed so much. It was so funny. And I got to tell you, if you thought that scene was funny, and I tell you, if you didn't laugh at that scene, you got to be dead, I think. But if you thought that scene was funny in the theater, you got to check out the unrated version on the DVD. Have you seen it, Yancy, the unrated
Not
version?
The unrated, no, I haven't.
Let's just say that there's a little bit of extra stuff added to the sex scene, and it's just insane. Those two guys push the envelope like I've never, ever seen before. And you know what? I'm glad they do, because it makes for some of the funniest stuff ever put into a movie. I would say this, Parker and Stone are two of the funniest human beings on the planet. No two ways about it. So that's my number 3. What's your 2?
And they're just unapologetic too. Like they don't care who they piss off. I love that. Like there's never any like stepping around like people's feelings or anything like that. They just go for it. So, number 2 for me, I think I'm going to go with Superbad. Came out in 2007, the year I graduated from high school. It is a hilariously funny movie, obviously with Jonah Hill, Michael Cera, Christopher Mintz-Plasse. He's Fogel. Bill Hader's in it. Seth Rogen's in it. Emma Stone. Just a really, really good cast. Like, this is, Seth Rogen's been around for a little while. He co-wrote it. but there's like a ton of actors in there too who kind of like were just getting their start and stuff, and now they're much bigger, obviously. But I mean, just dealing with like McLovin and the whole premise of like the film and like going to like the party and like, you know, putting beer in like, what was it, like Tide bottles and stuff like that. I mean, all the quotes and everything like this, you know, the chicka chicka, yeah. You know, the fact that like he has you know, McLovin has like a fake ID and like it's Hawaii. Like, why is it Hawaii? Are you kidding me? Like, it's just, I mean, it's so absurd. I think the first time I watched this, I was actually at a party. Like I said, I was a senior in high school, and I'm watching it, and the part where he says like, you know, where McLovin comes out and he's wearing like that like tan colored like orangish brownish vest over like a white long sleeve shirt, and they said, "You look like Aladdin." I just remember dying. You know what I mean? Oh my God. The movie is just, you know, something like 8% of kids do it, but whatever. Like, I don't even know. Or maybe with like McLovin where he's talking about like it's in, you know what I'm talking about? You got to give me something here, Chris. Have you seen this movie?
Oh yeah, of course I have. No, I've seen it. One of my favorite parts is how Jonah Hill too, the way he delivers his lines in the movie, almost come across as like improvisational. Like, it's just, It's incredible the performance that he gives, because it's just such a throwaway, his lines. It's just like he's not even acting. It's just, brilliant stuff. But the movie has a big heart, you know, even at the end, you realize it's about their friendship, you know, and they're going different ways at the very end. I really liked that movie a lot. I laughed a lot when I saw that movie, but I really enjoyed it. Funny enough, the Bill Hader and Seth Rogen characters, though, I felt every time that they came on screen, I felt that the movie, just all the air went out of the movie. I didn't like, so? Yeah, I didn't like them at all. Every scene that they were in, the whole movie came to a screeching halt for me. But then when the other two were back in it with Sarah and Jonah Hill, oh man, those two were funny. God, they were funny in that movie.
I'll leave you with one more quote. The whole "you use my leg as a tampon" scene. Oh
yes, yeah, from the party. Yeah.
See, this is what's so hard about like talking about these comedy movies and stuff. Like, it's hard to convey it without basically like running down the entire scene. You know what I mean? Because there's just so much stuff that's involved with it. So like, I mean, obviously, if anybody has seen Superbad before, any of the movies that we're talking about, they can relate, and they're just laughing even as I like stumble through this, like trying to explain why it's funny. But like, all I can just say is like, go watch these movies. If you haven't seen Superbad before, you obviously need to. This is another movie that's super rewatchable. It's incredibly funny, and like McLovin is just like a freaking American hero. Like, I just love this movie so much. That's my number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is Airplane from 1980. And it's really, this movie started that whole like, I don't know what you would call it, like the extreme sight gag movie subgenre, you know, like movies like Top Secret and The Naked Gun and Hot Shots. They're all a result of Airplane. And I know like Pat Proft and Neil Israel, they try to like push the genre a lot further, but I tell you, it's Abrams, Zucker, and Zucker. They kill it with Airplane. The jokes, the sight gags, they're coming at you like machine gun fire in this movie. And the thing is, the movie is basically a remake of the B movie 0 Hour. And they go and they get all these like well-known dramatic actors for the movie, because they had like Lloyd Bridges and Robert Stack and Robert Hayes, Peter Graves, and of course Leslie Nielsen. Because at the time, believe it or not, Leslie Nielsen was a dramatic actor before Airplane. And it was only his success with Airplane when he kind of reinvented himself as a comedic actor. He went on to do Police Squad, and then that launched the Naked Gun movies. But it was these actors they brought in and their ability just to play it straight that made Airplane just work so well. But I tell you, one of my favorite parts of the movie is, and you've seen the movie, I'm assuming?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
we talked about this at the beginning of the show.
Okay. I wasn't sure if this is one of the ones that you saw or haven't seen. You have to watch this movie. So there's these two guys that speak jive. Okay, and they're sitting beside each other.
They speak jive
to each other, and so when they speak jive, it's all this jumbled stuff, and they run subtitles under them to show you what they're actually saying. It is some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. So like they're talking, the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you know that honky must be messing with my old lady, gonna run cool upside down his head," and it says like the subtitles like, "Golly, that white fellow should stay away from my wife, or I will punch him." And then the other guy's like, "Oh yeah, something say I won't say, pray to Jay, I get the same old. And then it's like, "I knew a man in a similar predicament, and he ended up being sorry." And then they just go on and on. It's just so funny. Oh my God. And they say all this stuff. And then I remember at the end, they're like, "Leg it down and smack 'em, yak 'em. Yeah, Cole got to be, you know." And it says, "How true?" And he said, "Shit." It says "golly" for the subtitle. It's just so funny. Oh, and then later on, the stewardess, of course, comes by, and she's trying to understand what they're saying because they're trying to order dinner. And she has no idea what the hell they're talking about. Like, she's like, "Hey, you guys want dinner?" And he's like, "Hey, babe, send me a piece of the pork to drink side run the Java." And it says like, "I want steak and coffee." And the other guy's like, oh yeah, man, I could grease some chomp it on some butter and drag it through the garden. And it's like, I'll have the fish. Like, it's just so funny. And then later on, one of them gets sick and the stewardess doesn't understand him. So there's this little old lady comes by and she's like, oh, excuse me, stewardess, I speak jive. And it's Barbara Billingsley from Leave It to Beaver. June Cleaver, like the whitest of the white women on the planet. And she's like, I speak jive. And then she speaks jive and interprets to them, to the thing. It is, oh man, you got to watch the movie. It's so funny. The two jive dudes are just my favorite part of the whole movie. I think it's one of the funniest movies ever. So it's my number 2.
Everybody says that too. Like I said, as I was doing research, like every single list you can possibly think of talks about Airplane.
Oh no, for good reason. For good reason.
Such a classic.
It is. It's like nonstop. The jokes in it. I don't want to give any other ones, but the two guys speaking jive, man. I think their names are like Scott and Arthur. Oh man, it's the best thing ever.
Word. All right, so my number 1 film is a 2008 film, and it is Step Brothers. Step Brothers obviously is starring Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly as Brennan Huff and Dale Doback. They're both adult boys, basically. They have the bodies of adults, but for whatever reason, they have the mental aptitude of like a 16-year-old boy or maybe even younger. And they're both still living with their, respective parents. Whenever they're, with the mom on one side and the dad on the other, they decide to move in together and they're basically getting married. So these two adult sons are forced to live together. And it is a stupid premise. It is a really, really dumb movie. But it is, God, is it funny. Obviously they start out as foes and they learn to become like best friends. Did we just become best friends? Yup. It doesn't take very long for like the whole film to kind of get going in that way. But like some of the most notable like lines and scenes and stuff like that where, they talk about, putting their, making bunk beds, whatever, so they can have more room for activities, or, doing karate in the garage, or he asks them, why are you sweating? And it was really because he's playing his drum set, but he tells him because he's watching Cops. I say, I can't tell you how many times, at least once a week, my wife and I will say to the other, like, I'll come home and she'll be like, why are you sweating? And it's literally the response is, I was watching Cops, like, over and over. I'm almost positive I watched this in theaters whenever it first came out, like that opening weekend. And like you were talking about some of the films you've seen before, just rolling, like just dying laughing. I remember laughing so hard that like my sides hurt, because I have a brother. I don't think you have a brother. You have sisters, right? You have 2 sisters. And like just like the dynamic between them, even though they're, like I said, 2 adult men, they're technically stepbrothers, so they haven't grown up together, but just like the dynamic between like 2 people interacting with each other, like especially 2 males that are close in age, and the stupid stuff that goes on, like it really struck a nerve, because like that's how my brother and I are together. It's stupid. We say stupid stuff. We do stupid things. Like we would literally build forts, and we would do stupid stuff like, if we went to be auditioning or interviewing for a janitorial job, we would go wearing, tuxedos. And, obviously Seth Rogen is in this movie too, which I didn't realize, but I'm not sure how you feel about that. But it is just a fantastic film. It's super funny. On a rewatchable scale, like 1 to 10, like it's like a 9. Like I can keep watching it over and over again. And, 6-7 years after this movie came out, like I'm still like regularly quoting this movie all the time. It just has amazing staying power. So that's my number 1 is Step Brothers.
Okay, my number 1 on a scale of 1 to 10 for rewatchability, it's a 125, and that's Blazing Saddles from 1974. This movie would never get made today because on the surface, it just comes off as being like one of the most offensive movies ever made. Probably a lot to do with the fact that it really has a lot of gratuitous use of the N-word in it. However, when you watch the movie, though, you realize it's the people that use that word and the ones that have those racist attitudes, they're the ones that the movie's making fun of. Because one of the lines in the movie is, I remember the Waco Kid says, he goes, you got to remember, these are just simple farmers. They're the people of the land. They're the common clay. Morons.
It almost like degrades them, yeah.
Yeah, and so the basic premise is, it's like back in the 1800s, so the guys, they want to build a railway through the West, right? But in order to prevent it from like going way off course and like way over budget, sort of the powers that be, they want to put the railroad right through this town. Rock Ridge is the town they want to put it through. But they know the people that live there, they're never going to let them put, it's their home, right? They're not going to let them put a railroad through it. So they decide, hey, we got an idea. Let's send a black sheriff to the town. Because the idea is that they'll never accept a black sheriff because they're a bunch of racists. So they figure once the sheriff gets there, the people are going to be so offended, they're all going to leave the town, and then they just put the railroad through it. But as it turns out, he's a great guy, and the people actually find that they actually need him. And so it all works out. But man, oh man, along the way, the story, it is one of the funniest movies ever made, ever. There's literally 100 quotes or scenes from the movie. The late, great Gene Wilder is in this movie. He was unfreaking believable. He's the Waco Kid. And believe it or not, this movie was actually nominated for 3 Oscars when it came out. It was up for Best Supporting Actress, Madeline Kahn, Best Film Editing, and Best Original Song. And Frankie Lane, he sings the theme song for it. And the movie opens up, and this guy is just singing his heart out on this song. And he didn't even realize, because they got him in the studio to sing this great song, and he didn't even realize it's a spoof movie, But I got to tell you, the funniest thing about this movie for me is a piece of trivia and I still think it's the funniest movie ever made. But funny as it is, the funniest joke of all didn't even make it into the movie. The censors wouldn't allow it. Okay, so there's a scene where Madeline Kahn, she plays Lily von Stupp, she's sent into the sheriff's bedroom to try and seduce him. Okay. And she goes in and she turns out the light. And so it goes pitch black, right? And you can just hear them. And she says to him, "Is it true what they say about you people being gifted?" And then you hear a zip. And then she says, oh, it's true. It's true. And the scene is over. Funny, you laugh when it, but there was supposed to be one more line in that movie and the censors wouldn't allow it. After she says, "Oh, it's true, it's true," the sheriff then has a line and he says, "I hate to break it to you, lady, but you're sucking on my arm."
Oh, my.
And they cut it out. They wouldn't allow it in the movie. And it's so funny, all the offensive stuff in that movie, and that's what they cut out. You got to go figure. But I tell you, if you haven't seen it, Yancy, obviously you said you haven't, go see it. You got to watch it. And if anyone out there that's seen it, go back and watch it again, because it is the funniest film ever made. No questions asked. All right, time now to have some
fun with Yancy.
Okay, I'm going to make this easy for you this week. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to give you like a one-line synopsis of a movie and see if you can guess the movie. And the good thing, it's a funny movie. So it's like a super, super funny movie. And I'm going to go real easy on you. The first couple that I had here, you've already mentioned. So King Arthur and his knights embark on a low-budget search for the Grail, encountering many very silly obstacles.
Yep, that is Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
All right, and the next one is very easy too. 2 codependent high school seniors are forced to deal with separation anxiety after their plan to stage a booze-soaked party goes awry.
Super bad.
You got it. Okay.
Yes.
Let's get a little bit harder now. But I think you're still going to get this one pretty easy. Jake Blues, just out of prison, puts together his old band to save the Catholic home where he and brother Elwood were raised.
The Blues Brothers.
There we go.
Almost made my list, by the way. It was on my
I love
short
that movie.
list.
Love that movie. Okay, goaded by his buddies, a nerdy guy who's never done the deed only finds the pressure mounting when he meets a single mother.
Is this 40-Year-Old Virgin?
It is. Congratulations. All right. At a 1962 college, Dean Vernon Wormer is determined to expel the entire Delta Tau Chi fraternity, but those troublemakers have other plans for him. Came out in 1978.
As soon as you say this, I'm going to know this. It's like one of those really popular ones that I have not seen.
John Belushi is in it.
We just talked about this a couple shows ago. Oh, what is it? I'm supposed to watch this. You told me to watch this.
Animal House.
Animal House, that's what it is. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. I'll make it a little bit easier, okay? 2 slacker friends try to promote their public access cable show. 1992.
A public access cable show?
Based on an SNL skit.
I don't know, Christopher. What is it?
It's Wayne's World.
I've honestly never seen Wayne's World either. Can you believe that?
Oh, man, you and I.
Isn't this disgusting?
We got to talk after the show, I tell you. Okay, the last one. President Scroob sends Lord Dark Helmet to steal planet Druidia's abundant supply of air to replenish their own, and only Lone Star can stop them.
It's Spaceballs, man.
Yay! So you've seen that from '87.
How did Pizza the Hut die?
Did the guy eat him?
He ate himself to death.
He ate himself to death. Oh, that's right. There you go. Hey, man, I'll tell you, that's all the time we got. Lots of funny stuff this week. If you'd like to reach out to us, again, on Twitter, at Yancy Eaton or at C. McBrien. Or again, shoot us an email, Chris or Yancy at popgoesyourworld.com. This is Chris McBrien for Yancy Eaton saying thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thank you for listening to the Pop Goes Your World podcast. Continue the conversation on Twitter at @CMcBrien or at Yancy Eaton. Please consider leaving a review for the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.